is to share people's incredible stories in the hopes of encouraging you to keep going no matter how hard it is, and to show you how loved you are by your Heavenly Father. You are about to hear Melinda's story. To survive as a woman in this world, you need a man. That is the lie Melinda believed for many years. Because of that, and a life filled with chaos, she lived with uncertainty, fear, and anxiety, trying to find stability through different people. She learned how to operate in dysfunction. So when life was calm, she became frightened and created more chaos. Melinda had an encounter with the Lord that gave her a taste of true peace, which left her desiring more. Watch now to hear her full story.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Melinda. I am a mother of 7. Yes, 7. And I was going to add the grandkids in there. I was born and raised in Florida and moved around a lot and ended in Tennessee.
Awesome. So tell me about your life, your previous life.
So being born and raised in South Florida is where I spent most of my childhood. And then we moved around to Middle Florida in my teenage years. And then we moved to Massachusetts, Indiana, back to Massachusetts, back to Florida. So we moved around a lot. And my mom was married quite a few times. And I was not raised in a home where people went to church. We didn't even pray. We didn't even pray at Christmas or Easter. And Jesus wasn't ever mentioned, like nothing like that. So my whole life growing up, it was, I guess, what you would call a typical non-Christian home. For me, at least, is what I thought was typical. So, but my mom was married to my dad when she was 20. They got divorced when I was 2. Then she got remarried when I was 4. They got divorced when I was 10. And she got remarried when I was 11, and they got divorced when I was 15, and then she had a boyfriend at 15. And so it was just a lot of like in and out, like people in and out, men in and out. But there was never anybody that was a believer that was in my life.
And what path did that put you on?
Well, watching my mom get married so many times and always have men in her life. So for me, anytime she left one man left one man, she had another man she was already going to. And so that already told me that, I guess it just told me that she didn't know how to take care of herself, or that men had to be around for a woman to be taken care of. And so for me, watching that, it was just chaos. It's the best way I can explain it. It's like life was chaotic. There was nothing that was consistent. Nothing was the same. We moved 38 times from kindergarten until my senior year. And so in 38 times, I think there were 8 schools. So I was in and out of the schools. And so I would be friends with somebody the first time I went to the school, and the next time I went back to the school, they didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And so nothing was consistent. Nothing was calm. Nothing was peaceful. Nothing was predictable. Everything was just chaotic. It reminds me of Genesis when it says in the beginning, when you look up the word for, is it the deep or whatever, it says it was chaotic and without form, and I felt like there was no form and everything was just chaotic, which when I became an adult then led me into living a chaotic life, right? So when I became an adult, everything had to be chaotic. And it wasn't even like a conscious decision that I made. It was just when things were quiet and calm, I got scared. And I think it's because I didn't know, like I knew how to react and how to survive in these chaotic situations, but I didn't know what to do when things were calm and predictable and I guess somewhat normalized. And so um, it just, if there wasn't chaos externally, and then I would create chaos internally, if that makes sense. And so I watched a lot of like abuse. I watched my parents doing drugs. I watched my parents get arrested, and then being left in at drug houses being younger. And those were always chaotic environments. And so I just didn't know like how to do it, like how to do life outside of the chaos. And so I moved out when I was 18, moved in with my boyfriend. That didn't turn out good. So then I moved in with my first husband, and then that lasted for a while, and then we got divorced, and then I ended up living with my second husband, and then that turned abusive, and that didn't work out, and then so I left him, and then after that, I kind of started learning how to live on my own and support my own, but I still had like chaos and uncertainty and fear and anxiety and worry, and I still had all of that, and I seemed to attract it everywhere I went. I seemed to attract those type of people.
So what changed?
A chaotic moment. So when I had divorced my second husband and then kind of just became a single mom and just was taking care of me and the kids, I started to learn what peace was like. And it was kind of when I started to see God. But in that time of my life, God was more like a Band-Aid for me. And you don't leave Band-Aids on all the time. You leave them on until you're done bleeding. And so I put Jesus on, is how I call it. I put him on like a Band-Aid. And then when it seemed like everything was able to become stable and I could operate in that, and I just took Band-Aid off. And then when I did that, my husband and I weren't married at the time, and I was pregnant. We were living together, and I had taken the Band-Aid off. Like, I took Jesus off, wasn't really living for him at that moment. And then our life went into a complete circle of chaos and turmoil. And in that moment, I realized, okay, I don't like this. Like, that was the first time I didn't like chaos, because I had peace. But here I was in chaos, and I was living in it for a while with him. And then when we split up and he left, I just broke, and I just fell on my knees, and I didn't want to live like that anymore. And I realized I wasn't in control of anything. I thought I was in control of everything, but just because I knew how to operate in it didn't mean I was in control of it. And when I realized I wasn't in control of, I was in control of absolutely nothing, then that was when I was like, I just fell on my knees, and I was like, I need you. Like, if you are so real, save me. So here I was like, it was like pulling out the Band-Aid again, right? And putting it on because I was bleeding. But this time it was different. This time I heard him speak to me. I had never heard him speak to me. I had seen evidence of him in my life, but I had never personally heard him speak to me. And that day he personally spoke to me, and he just said, "When will you stop putting other men before me?" And so I didn't know. I said to him, "Well, right now is when I'm going to stop putting other men before you." But that was what I had. That was what I had known. That's what I grew up with. And
Repeating that cycle.
yeah. And I didn't know, like, if in order to be a woman, you had to have a man. And in order to survive as a woman, I should say, you had to have a man. And so, and And there was also no consistency in anything. And that was something that, everybody left, right? So every time my mom was married, they left. And when they left her, they left me. They never left her and kept me. When they left her, they left me, and my friends would leave, and other family members would leave, and everybody just left all the time. And so you always, that was normal. Just people leave, and then you grab the next person, and people leave, and you grab the next person. And so when my husband left, I didn't want to grab the next person this time. Actually, I didn't want to grab anybody. I just wanted Jesus at that moment. And when I called out to him, and he asked me that question, it took me, when I said, well, now I will follow you. And I said to him, I said, Lord, I don't want him. I don't want to lose him. I want him to come back. But whether he comes back or not, I will follow you. You are my Lord. I will put nobody else before you. And I didn't even know what that looked like. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to do it. I had separated myself from anybody that was a Christian that had been in my life. And so I had no idea. But I knew that Google would have somebody in mind. So I started Googling it, and I found a couple pastors, and I started watching them. I started reading the word, and then my now husband, he did come back. And so here I had recommitted, or I like to call it, I accepted Jesus, because that was the life transformation. I think before then it was like I knew him, but now I had, I knew him. Like, I would open the door and he would stand outside and talk to me. And this time I opened the door and I was like, get in here, That's what it was like. So I say, that's when I truly accepted Christ. And he just gently walked me through. He had to teach me, before he could teach me how to accept love, he had to teach me how to give love, because I didn't know how. And so he taught me that he loved me by teaching me how to love others, which then allowed me to receive love from others. And so that was probably the hardest thing about coming to him, was learning how do you love someone? Okay, I'm going to follow you, but what does that look like? What do I do? Do I just believe in you? Because that's what a lot of people say. I just have to believe in you. Well, I believe, and my life kind of sucks right now. So apparently that wasn't, there's more to it. That's the only thing, that, and so it was just a process of him taking me through. And I remember I had already been baptized during that period of time where I had that peace, but I felt like I needed to be rebaptized, because when I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see, who God says I am, wondrously made and beautiful and all these things. And I went down to the river, and my daughter and I got baptized the same day. And I went up to the bathrooms to change, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just started crying. And it was like, in that one moment, he let me see me the way he sees me, and not like in a physical way. It was like in a spiritual way. I could see how he saw me. And oh man, I just cried and cried and cried in that bathroom. But they were tears of joy, because I was so happy to see myself that way. And so it was just a very slow process, little bit at a time.
How long ago was that day that you prayed that prayer and told him that you were going to follow him?
It was June 26th of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, almost 5 years.
So how's life today compared to that?
Oh man, It's so good. I can't even, I don't even know if there's words. Like there is, oh gosh, everything is so different. Like even, I'm just so happy and content and just full of peace. Like, and when I get things wrong, um, I don't feel like like shame. You know what I mean? Like he corrects me, but it's not like I need to go hide in a closet so that he doesn't know what I did. It's more like, I don't know, just a very loving father.
Be confident
Yeah,
in his love for you.
yeah. And my husband ended up getting saved. Like a few months later after that, and we got married. And like I have a marriage that I've never seen. Like I never seen the type of marriage I have with him. I've never seen that in my parents' life, or in my grandparents. Yeah, but not that was Christ centered. And so it's still learning. When when he prays over me, that took me a minute to get used to. I felt like kind of unworthy of like, this is weird. Like, what are you doing? It kind of took me a minute to get used to that. Learning that I could trust him to lead me and to provide for me. But now I don't know, it's just, there's no more chaos. That's the best way. It's like the chaos is gone. It's like the Lord said, let there be light. And then there is no more darkness. And so that's what it's been like since then.
So there's, I think, a lot of people, particularly women, who feel that same way, that they need a man to survive. There may be men that think that they need a relationship to survive. I mean, I think that there's that codependency is a major struggle for many, many people. So what could you say to somebody who is struggling with that? What could you say that would bring them encouragement or hope that you overcame and that they can't?
Oh boy. I think it would be that realize that what we're reaching for in these other individuals is just us reaching for a need. And so for me, it was, when this person left, it was like I wasn't good enough. So in order to make myself feel good enough, I had to find somebody else, because they had to give me my affirmation. They had to give me my love. And I couldn't go a minute without that. But when you realize that the Lord's affirmation and the Lord's love is beyond anything that a human could give you, then that desire to kind of get that from others, you don't even have to try to make it go away. It just kind of goes away. And so the first thing I would say to someone is, what need are you trying to get met through your relationship? And is it even a realistic expectation that you're putting on them to fulfill that? Because there's really no need that a human can fill in you without it potentially causing harm or hurt. But God can fulfill all those needs and never hurt you in the process of it. So I felt like I wasn't ever worthy enough for someone to be loyal to me.
Okay.
And so, but the Lord is always loyal, even when I'm not loyal to him. And I look back and I think, I can look back now and I can see that every time that something failed, he was trying to get my attention. And I just, like a kid that ignores their parent's voice, I just ignored it and kept trying to fulfill it in myself through others. And so just really sitting down and looking at and asking yourself, what need am I looking at? What am I feeling? Where is that coming from? Why do I feel that way? And can a human fulfill that? No. You tell yourself they can, but then you look back at your life and you realize that they haven't. And so you allow the Lord to fulfill that.
So we talked a lot about love.
Mm-hmm.
And you described what you thought love was, security, having a man. Now that you've experienced what you just said, the love of God through your husband, how would you define love to someone that hadn't experienced it?
Well, I used to think love was a feeling, but now I look at love as like, love is on purpose. It's love is like on purpose. Everything is on purpose. It's an action. It's the way you choose to talk to somebody. It's the way you choose to look at somebody. It's the way you choose to do things for that person. It's just like the Bible says. Love is patient. Love is kind. It's all those things. And all of those things are an action. They're not a feeling. You don't ever feel patient. You don't ever feel kind. You don't ever feel gentle. But love is acting that way or having that acted towards you even when it's not deserved. So that's how I view love now.
What a beautiful transformation. Right?
Yeah.
And what an excellent end to the cycle. Like you broke the cycle and you discovered true love and your true identity and where to get that from. So that's beautiful. So thank you for sharing. Thank you. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you or that you wanted to add or share?
No, because we'd have to start it all over. Because now I'm sitting here going, well, dang, I should have shared that one instead. I should have shared that story and I should have said this.
But I believe you shared exactly what the Lord wanted you to, because this is a struggle that we haven't talked a lot about in the interviews that we've done, and just that codependency and trying to find that love. And that's something that I know a lot of people struggle with. And so it's really important to talk about that, but it's a hard one for a lot of people to talk about. And so the fact that you're willing to just open up and be vulnerable and share your life through that, like, that's really awesome.
So, well, I think for me, it's because I know how God sees me now.
Yeah.
So I can share my story, and if somebody views that in a bad way, well, that doesn't affect my life in any way. For me, thank goodness it wasn't 5, 6, or 7, but it was more than what God intended, which was just 1. And so I look at that, and sometimes I say to myself, God, I wish I could get back those years. And He says to me, you can't get them back, but I can give them back. So you can't, He can give them back to me now. So all the things that I didn't get to experience when I was younger, I can now experience now. Mm-hmm. Even though it might have taken me longer and to experience it, I can experience it now. And so
He's good like that.
He is good like that.
Thank you so much for watching. Isn't that an incredible story? I absolutely loved her vulnerability when she compared Jesus to a Band-Aid, admitting that she would only put him on when she was bleeding and then that she would take him off when she was better. That is something I think so many of us can relate to. If you believe that you can find what you need in another human being, I want to be straight up with you and tell you that you will live your life unfulfilled and dissatisfied. You can only find what you need through Jesus. Melinda not only found stability, but she found love, joy, peace, and purpose through Jesus Christ. And my friend, these things are available to you as well. If you do not know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, I pray you seek him today and allow him to not only change your life, but also your eternity. Melinda and I go to the same church, so if you are in East Tennessee and are looking for a place to grow with others, I encourage you to check out Real Revolution Church in Maryville, Tennessee. If you are not local, do what Melinda did, a Google search, and find a faith-filled church near you. Join us next week to hear another incredible story. Be sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode. Most importantly, I pray that you know, no matter how far you have run from God, it is never too late. There is always hope because you are loved.